Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Camping isn't just for campgrounds any longer, campgrounds or Walmart parking lots, that is. Now there are so many options that actually can be free to you. How about if you're an RVer, that is, self-contained RVer, what about camping at a museum, at a church, at a farm, at a winery? You don't have to just be in a campground or at a Walmart parking lot. There are so many options now, and today on the program we're going to talk to the CEO of Harvest Hosts. It's a brilliant idea. Why didn't you come up with this idea? Why didn't I come up with this idea? It is a win-win for these various places like farms or wineries or churches that have large unused parking lots at some point, and RVers who are looking for a place to stay the night for free. It's a membership that you can join for a whole list of over 4,000 unique places, breweries, farms, wineries, golf courses, and more, that you can stay the night free of charge and just ask maybe to support that business where you're staying. So again, it's a win-win. On the show, we're going to talk to Joel Holland about this brilliant idea, how it's taking off, and how you can benefit from it. We'll be back with Joel right after this. Welcome back to the program. All of this can benefit you, me, and actually New Mexico and our whole country, because RVers who are looking for a place to stay can stay literally in our backyard. If you have a golf course or a church, I think there's over 200 churches now who have empty parking lots during the week, who may invite these RVers in. And the person who's going to connect them all is Joel Holland and Harvest Hosts. Welcome to the program. Welcome to New Mexico, Joel.
Thank you, Diane. It's a pleasure to be here.
What in the world is this idea? It's a brainchild.
Well, thank you. And by the way, you did a fantastic job summarizing it. I think the word you hit on that I really like is it's unique. And RVers, and there are 11 million RV owners in the U.S., which is a large number, they're always looking for unique experiences. And campgrounds provide a pretty utilitarian experience. But when you can stay at a winery or a brewery or a golf course or a church, that's different. And you come away with really, really cool stories. And so that's the spirit of the program. And you touched on the fact that it's not very much money to join our membership, because we want our members to give back to the local communities and the businesses that they visit. And that's the important part. And so if you're staying at a church, we allow you to donate to the church, whatever you choose. If you're staying at a winery or a brewery, of course, try the products. If you go to a farm, buy some local produce. But there's always a way to support the local community. And here in New Mexico, we have so many amazing hosts. So thank you for letting me talk about it.
Because it's so neat. It's not just for the traveler, but for that business who has this open space, either farmland, ranch land, parking lot, such as a church.
Yep.
And say, come on in and join us. And I'm sure they relate. I mean, RVers love to not just stay in their RV. Right. They want to get out and see the farmland, see that local produce, taste that wine, visit the church.
That's right. That's right. It's interesting. When we ask our hosts why they enjoy being in the program and hosting our RVers, their first answer is that they like sharing their lifestyle with these travelers. And that's pretty touching, because the next answer, which makes as much sense, is they make more revenue, right? They're going to make additional money from our visitors when they come through. On average, our hosts make an extra $15,000 to $20,000 per year. We don't take any of that, and it never costs anything to be in the program as a host. But it's touching that they really enjoy sharing their lifestyle.
Oh, as a host, they don't have to pay anything to be part of the program?
No, completely free. Yep.
Give me some examples or some stories if you've had, again, relating the people. Again, they're on the road. They're on the road for a purpose. They want to go visit, meet, and see and do.
Yes.
And at a campground, maybe they've seen that river enough times or seen that dry cactus enough times. But going to a winery, a church, a farm, a ranch.
That's right.
It's a whole different
It's a whole different experience. I think the best analogy for me is a hotel versus an Airbnb, where, a hotel, fantastic, it provides a place to stay, but it's not that unique. Whereas you can go to some Airbnb homes where you feel like you're in the community and you're really experiencing the local culture. That's what Harvest Hosts provides. So if you go and stay at a winery, or here in town, Star Brothers Brewery is one of our hosts. And so if you're one of our members, you can stay at the brewery overnight. We went there last night. Delicious beer, obviously, but also really good food. And so you can go in, eat and drink with community, like you mentioned, and then go back out to your RV. You don't have to drive anywhere. I mean, it's wonderful.
No drinking and driving. You're right there in their parking lot.
Totally.
Free of charge.
Free of charge.
And
That's
they're going to
right.
eat and drink somewhere else anyways.
Exactly. So why not do it with a local business?
Oh my gosh. Can you share some other businesses that you can recall in New Mexico that are part of your program?
Yes, absolutely. So we have, I think I mentioned that we recently opened it to churches to join. And this is a very new concept. We had a church actually in Lake Tahoe, California, first apply a year ago and say, could we be in the program? We said, we never thought about churches. We allowed them to be in the program as a test. And over the course of a year, our members loved staying there because it's a beautiful location. They ended up donating over $12,000 to the church. And then the pastor loved it because actually some of our members attended services. And so he picked up some new parishioners and travelers. And so here in New Mexico, I forget the exact number of churches, but I know we've had multiple join recently. And that's a big one for anyone watching. If you attend a church here and they have space for RVers to park overnight, our members are fully self-contained, so they don't need any hookups, no water, no electricity, nowhere to, no sewer, just a place to park. And I think it could be really good, for your church. And of course, if you're a small business, winery, brewery, museum, we spoke about some of the museums, and you have space for RVers to visit and stay, we would love to have you in the program, and it never costs anything.
Never costs. So, as an example, going to a church, they pull up, they have to know, number one, they find out, I'm sure through your site with Harvest Hosts, where a church is located,
Yes.
and that they welcome RVers, self-contained. They don't have to go into, unlock the church to use the bathroom or the electricity or anything. They're right there in their parking lot. But how do they make a reservation? What kind of system is that, Joel?
Great question. So, with our app or our website, there's a booking system. And so you can search right on the app, you can look around, see what's right around us, or you can put a route in. So, we're going from here in Albuquerque back to Vail, Colorado. It'll show me all along the route hosts and how far off they are and what type they are. And then you can click on it, look through photos, see what other members have posted, look through comments, see, what have people enjoyed there. And if you like it, you can pull up the calendar and book. If it's available, it's a really quick click, book, and attend.
It must be available, or do they limit? Do some of them limit? Well, I imagine they probably, don't want 20 maybe RVers overnight, or do you?
No, you don't. And it depends. Every location can choose. I mean, that's the nice thing. As a host, you can choose how many RVs to allow. Our average host only allows between 2 to 4. And so it's nice because then as a member, you get a little more space, right? It's not like a campground where there are hundreds of RVs all around you. You're enjoying a little bit of freedom, which is great.
What is the idea of one night, 24-hour stay?
Yes. So the idea there is it's called boondocking. So there are no hookups. And it's a fancy term that says you're not going to be able to plug in the RV. And we know that every RV can last at least 24 hours on their batteries, with their own water, with their toilet system. So they won't need to ask anything of the host. And that's important. And the second thing is these hosts want to keep kind of like turning tables in a restaurant. They want to have more people come every day and visit. And so if you come in one day and you buy the produce, next day you leave and let the next member come in and have the experience.
Do you find some of your guests actually just stay at your Harvest Hosts locations? If they're traveling, and going from one point A to point B, C, and D, meaning they don't want to stay for a week, do they tend to go and find your locations?
Yes, I'm always amazed by this, actually. So we have 240,000 members now, so that there's a large array. It's kind of the bell curve. Some members only use it a couple days a year, and really one experience, you feel like you've paid for the membership, which is how we priced it. One night, you're like, this is great. But we do have members on the other side of that bell curve who use it hundreds of times a year. And some almost look at it as like a badge of honor to see if they can stay for a whole trip every night at a different host. It's pretty impressive. And so that's not how I use it. And my wife and I and our daughter, we'll use it between campgrounds. So we'll stay at a campground, we'll plug in, get the air conditioner running, get all the water on board. And then the next day, we'll go to a winery and kind of go off-grid for a day, and then go back to a campground. That's the way most people use it, kind of sprinkle in the experiences.
And you told us how much money you've raised for churches, but businesses, local businesses throughout the United States, how much have they raised through this program?
Yeah, so this year alone, in 2022, our members will spend over $40 million directly with the 4,000 hosts in our network. And so it averages out to about $15,000 to $20,000 per host. Now, for more well-established hosts who have been on the program for a while and are in great locations like here in Albuquerque, that can go higher. And like I'm guessing the brewery here locally, maybe $40,000, $50,000 a year in extra revenue. And again, we don't take any of that. So there's no revenue sharing, there's no charge to the host to be in the program, there's no contracts or long-term obligations. We just say, if you have space, give it a try. If you enjoy it, keep hosting. And if you don't, we understand.
Some ranches as well?
Yes, absolutely. So we have this program called Boondockers Welcome, which is all private properties. And so that's an additional 3,000 locations.
Is that part of Harvest Hosts?
We own the company. It's a different product.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of our members, in fact, over 50,000 of our members have both products. And so then when you look here, in Albuquerque, you can now see it probably goes from 30 or 40 hosts up to 100 because of those private properties. And there are little pins on the map with home icons. And those are your ranches, your farms that don't have a product to sell, but they just enjoy having people come and visit and have the more community aspect to that stay.
And so that's something different, another membership for...
Boondockers Welcome,
Boondockers
Welcome.
It's
a silly technical term, but that's what they call it.
So legally, or does the city, we have a lot of restrictions in this state, and in Santa Fe in particular, Albuquerque, are people able to open up their homes, not their homes, their driveways, their streets to RVers for a night?
Great question. So we always say check your local ordinances because they are all different. But I will say the nice thing is, with all the small businesses in our network, they all have business insurance and they're all zoned to allow people to visit. So they really fall within what's allowed. And they're not selling the parking, right? That's important, right? It's not a campground. They're just saying you can stay overnight, drink and then not drive. So luckily, cities are always on board with that. For the private properties, we provide insurance and that helps. And so every time someone stays with you, we have an insurance policy that protects against anything that might happen. And that takes care of a lot of the liability. And so
on private properties, of course, ranches and farms, they have large spaces, but other than ranches and farms, what other kind of private property is used?
It's really interesting. We have homes. People actually will allow you to stay in their driveways in a lot of these places. And everyone's RV is a different size. Some are quite large, some are smaller, like vans. So when you search, you can actually say how large your rig is, and we'll only show you locations where you'll fit. But you'd be amazed. I'll bet you within 5 miles of here, there are multiple homes that have joined the program just to let people stay in their driveways, which is just out of the kindness of their hearts, which is pretty cool.
Really cool. Take a look at this. What is this, Joel?
So this is probably the perfect example of one of our farm locations. And there's an Airstream parking in a beautiful setting, right? And I think this kind of shows you what the experience is like. You're not crowded. You're not around a bunch of other people. You're in a beautiful, natural setting, and that's what we try to create throughout the program.
How neat. So is there a time limitation? They need to arrive before midnight, before 10 o'clock?
Yeah, so each host posts their own rules and says, here's when you need to arrive by, here's how you check in, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say in general, we say show up during business hours so that you can go in and support the business. and then retire to your RV. Business usually closes, and then you have the place to yourself. It's pretty wild, and it's so quiet. So if you like quiet, when you're on a farm and everyone goes to bed at night, and all you can hear are the chickens, it's pretty sweet.
We don't like the roosters in the morning. We don't like them. So are they kind of required to stay in their RV at that point, or can they go around the property a little bit?
Yeah, typically you're free, and the host will tell you, but they'll say, hey, feel free to walk around. Maybe don't go over here because we have wild, animals doing wild animal things. But this is beautiful, right? So this is probably a member walked from their rig, took a nice hike around this farm, obviously took a beautiful photo of the flowers. But typically you can walk and explore, and there's usually a lot to see.
Oh, you can do that as well, correct?
Yes.
What's the best experience people have said? What do they tell you? That might be surprising to you, and we'll take a look.
Yeah. Well, there again, to me, this just represents freedom, and freedom of the open road, which is why RVing, I think, has become so popular.
Yes, after we had all those restrictions.
That's right.
Many restrictions on our lives.
Many restrictions. So I'll tell you the most unique experience I've ever had, and it was both touching, entertaining, and I've told it a million times. My wife and I were driving through Kansas. We'd always just driven on 70, never taken the time to really appreciate the state. And we said, you know what, let's look on Harvest Host and see what we've got here. And we found this alpaca farm that looked like it was in a beautiful setting. That's all we knew. Alpaca farm in Kansas. We said, let's do it. We drove down this dirt road. We pull up to the farm, and it turns out it was run by 3 nuns, all in their 80s. And all the money from the farm gets donated back to their services. And so one of the nuns made alpaca scarves, which are amazingly soft. It was the first time I'd ever met an alpaca. They're really cute animals, very soft. One of them made soaps, and then one of them gave massages. And so it was the first time I had a massage from an 80-year-old nun on an alpaca farm in Kansas. And I just couldn't believe it. I left this experience thinking, I got to tell everybody about this. This is the coolest thing in the world. So that's the type of experience. And they're always different, but every time you leave with a story.
That's pretty darn unique.
Yes.
Rather than your state campground.
That's right.
To run into that. But the folks who are part of your program, what have they told you?
So we have a number of families. So young families really enjoy the farms for their kids. And then we have, I'd say universally, people love wineries because they're always very scenic, and there's always something to eat and drink. And so you can wrap your dinner around the winery. And the last category that people enjoy are golf courses because it's the same thing, they're very scenic. So every golf course has space. All the golfers take off in the afternoon, so you get the place literally to yourself. And they open really early, so you can usually have a very nice breakfast. So really wineries, breweries, golf courses, and farms are the most popular categories.
And for all those reasons, a golf course, they're gorgeous. And again, the golfers leave.
That's it.
And you have it to yourself to see the beautiful vistas.
Yep.
And then the early morning breakfast,
That's
as
right.
you say.
That's right.
How nice. It's grown in the past 5 years.
Yes.
More and more members are hearing about you. More and more people want to share their locations.
Yes.
And the hosts, of course, they like the extra income or the donations to their nonprofit, but also meeting people from across the country, I imagine.
That's right. And especially farmers. What we found is that farming is this interesting thing where we all eat the food, but very few of us know how it's made. And we don't really appreciate it. And so I think farmers really enjoy getting to show people what goes on behind the scenes. Like, hey, the broccoli you ate, or the corn you're eating and everything, this is how it was actually made. And it helps, I think they enjoy showing people how to appreciate their lifestyle, which is amazing, man. And I'll personally say, I had no idea what went into farming. This is one of our golf courses in Colorado.
Oh.
And that's actually my truck camper there. I visited this one personally.
Where's your truck? Oh, way in the back. In the parking
The
lot.
whole thing. It's a golf course. We got the whole thing to ourselves because everyone took off in the afternoon.
Oh, I see the golf carts. Those are just golf carts.
Golf
and there
carts,
you are.
And the golden aspens. This was in fall. And so it was the perfect fall afternoon. And my wife, my daughter, and I walked around the golf course. It was just so pleasant.
To be alone. You're in all 50 states, 48 states?
All 50.
Probably 50.
We are, yeah, even in Hawaii. So all the lower 48, that's the majority. We do have locations in Alaska. And then Hawaii, we have locations as well. So all 50 states and Canada, every Canadian province. We have hundreds of locations in Canada. And we have dozens of locations in Mexico. So Mexico is still not large, but we have all of North America, which is very exciting.
For your company, how many employees do you have, Joel?
We're up to 52 full-time employees, and that's grown tremendously really in the last couple of years. We went from 2 employees to 50 last 2 years.
What do your employees do? Maintain, I imagine, your site, your website?
That's right. So we have technology employees who are always building and improving the app and the website. We have marketing employees who are really doing a great job advertising the product. And then we have a lot of host recruiters who are working, like 6 full-time employees that are looking for new hosts to bring onto the program. Because as we've grown from 6,000 members to 240,000, we've really had to grow the host locations. So we've grown from 600 locations to 7,000 locations.
Are some of the, look, what is this site?
Oh, look at this. So this, I believe, is in, that might be Washington. But it's just another perfect example of the most scenic setting in the world. I mean, when you look at that, doesn't it make you want to travel?
Well, it makes me think that's an advertisement for
Yes,
traveling, but
yes.
it isn't. It's just
real.
your RVer with Harvest Hosts there, taking a picture of their RV with that beautiful
That's right.
background. It's
Yes.
amazing. So because you need more locations, are some of them filling up? I mean, some evenings people can't find a particular place if they only take 2 or 4 RVers?
Yes, so this is becoming, I'd say in the RV world in general, this is becoming a problem. Campgrounds are filling up, national parks are filling up, state parks are filling up, and we're working really hard to make sure that we don't. Right? We're like our host recruiting team right now is bringing on 300 new hosts every month, and the goal is to never grow membership so fast that it oversaturates the network, because there's nothing worse than traveling and not being able to find a place to stay.
Well, is it legal to just pull up on the side of a road?
Not usually, and it's also not that safe. I think safety is another big factor. You know, and sometimes it's crime, sometimes it's getting hit by another vehicle. Now there are a number of rest stops. They all have different rules. A lot of them say no overnight camping, but people don't give you a hard time if you're just trying to get some sleep.
Right, trying to get from A to B,
That's
and
right.
you need a place to go. So many, I don't know how much did this industry explode, RVers, and especially, I guess the young people like to live in their RVs compared to my generation, but they're living in that lifestyle.
Yes.
But also since COVID, people have bought the RVs for freedom and no restrictions and
Yes.
being able to travel.
Yeah,
and
I
see
think
the country.
2 million new RVs were sold since COVID started, which was all-time records. And it's growing at both the older end and the younger end. See, and this is one of our museums. So this is one of our outdoor air museums, and we have dozens of these air museums in the program. This one might be in Kansas, but this is an example of a museum where you can walk around and actually like get a little education. You know, stay for the night, walk inside to see what they have. We have a lot of car museums. We have a museum of clean in Nebraska that is literally the history of vacuum cleaners. So there's some really some oddities that are always fun.
Museum of Clean.
Yes, Museum of Clean, and the
Nebraska.
proprietor, he's fascinated with clean and cleanliness. And as you'd imagine, the museum is phenomenally clean, but you can actually see the whole history of vacuums and see how they've changed over the years from the very beginning. That's some really fun roadside attraction experience.
Some other kind of quirky private roadside attractions. I certainly know we have them in New Mexico.
Yes.
On the east side of the mountain.
Yes. Well, one of the
Tinkertown Museum have you heard of that?
Yes. And I'm wondering if they're a host, and if they're not, right after the show, I'm going to go try to recruit them.
But other fun places. What other fun places do you have as hosts? I mean, I never heard of a clean museum. Really.
Yeah, Clean Museum. One of them. So on the way here, stopped in Kansas at the Underground Salt Museum, and so you actually take an elevator 400 feet into the ground and see them blasting salt out of the walls. Had no idea where table salt came from, and now you know. In Nebraska, we have the Golden Spike Tower, which is the world's largest train yard, and you can actually stay right there where every day tens of thousands of trains couple and decouple and then take off for the rest of the country. So it's where all the trains in the country come together and then disperse. And you can stay right in the middle of that in your RV. It's pretty wild.
Any federal locations you're able to? We have Carlsbad Caverns here. Again, you're talking about the salt mines going down. Any other national facilities that you're able to park at?
So National facilities tend to have their own reservation systems, if you can stay there, through recreation.gov, which is great. We do have a number of underground caverns in the program. But yeah, usually federal programs have their own systems.
Okay. But you're opening up a niche. Where does the future go from here, Joel? Joel Holland, with CEO with Harvest Hosts. Where does it go? What else can you do? What else can you do?
So our goal is to try to grow this program to over 1 million members and over 40,000 hosts. And we believe that I just personally believe that anyone who RVs should get to experience staying at an alpaca farm run by nuns, or at a winery, or at Star Brothers Brewery down the street. There are just so many fun ways to see the country, and when you can really stay right at the location where you're eating and dining and eating, and pulling the produce, it's amazing. So that's my goal. So just expand this to more people, both on the host side and the member side.
We just saw. Look at what is this, Joel? That's pretty funky looking.
That is funky, and this actually might be. This is another one of our farms, and I forget the name of this farm, but. Just another perfect example of where you can stay and the type of vehicle you can take. You saw that little tiny R-Pod being pulled behind the car. As long as you're a self-contained RVer, it doesn't matter whether you're in an Airstream, a huge bus, as long as you have a bathroom on board, the ability to eat and drink and stay, keep everything with you, then you're welcome to be in the program.
Except I bet they allow you to put your patio chairs out. Right.
That's right. Well, it's like the camping motto. We just say, take only photographs, leave only footprints. And so as long as you can pack out what you pack in, you're good to go. Wow, I don't know where that one. See, this is with so many locations now, I haven't personally been to them all, and I don't think I'll be able to at this point in my lifetime because we're adding so many so fast. But seeing those images just gets me excited to travel.
You're very excited. Me too. And now we know we have a place. Look at that gorgeous place to go.
Incredible.
And again, other than the membership, which is a nominal, $100 a year?
$100 a year. That's right.
You can go to all these locations free of charge, but just make a donation or buy the product and enjoy and visit the people and keep it clean.
Support local. That's it.
Support local. Fantastic. Joel Holland, CEO of Harvest Host, thank you. And Alyssa, your worker, Alyssa, who I met, for introducing me to you. It's a great idea. And good luck to you and your young family. And again, providing this service to everyone who's an RVer.
Thank you, Diane. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks again. Joel Holland with Harvest Hosts. Thanks for watching this show. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.